Hey, it's Chris. Can't miss it, baby. Roundup, all the new stuff. What do you need to know about them? Where are they at? Price-wise, value-wise, mechanic-wise, rules overview, everything that you need to know all in one video. Can't miss it. That's why we do it every week. What do we got going on? A little bit of everything. Across the board, mechanically, thematically, and money-wise as well. Enough preamble. Subscribe if you want. Get into 10K. Let's do this. Let's go. Okay, we're going to start with the biggest bad boy of them all this week. We're going Zombicide White Death. Now, if you missed it yesterday, I put out a video that was explaining all of the differences in whether or not you should back this. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's not starting off nearly as hot as the other editions. And I'm wondering if the reason is because when I looked at the rulebook, I wasn't necessarily terribly impressed so far at what the big differences were between this Black Plague Green Horde. And there are some differences, let's be clear. It's more of a tower defense-esque style Zombicide. Now, I take that very, very loosely because you have battlements that are going to be surrounding the city. You take away some of the other things that you may be used to. Spawn zone losing conditions. You also lose sort of the AI that's kind of a little bit too dumb. They upgrade that just a little bit so you can't get stuck behind things and have sort of this issue where zombies can't get you because the path isn't quote unquote clear. And then they add a few other things like your skills, and they change a little bit of how that's going to be upgraded based on your experience points that are awarded on killing the zombies. You also have your equipment that you can equip, a total of 3 things actively and then 5 things in your equipment bag. And they run you through a little bit of what the other differences are. There's a freeze ability. You've got a couple different ways to kill the abominations in this game, which are the big bads. They're dropping higher loot along with the necromancers. And you're getting a little bit of an advantage from the battlements themselves. Not only are they going to have guards that are going to be NPCs that you can utilize and manipulate as an action of your own, but you also have things like cauldrons that you can dump off of the top to kill things like abominations as a different way of doing it, like the catapults and the other sort of accoutrements as other massive weapons of war, if you're familiar with the other 2 base games. The other big thing is, especially with the ranged weapons, there's no ammo anymore. You don't have to worry about ammo. So take that for what you will. There are ruin zones that you're going to have to take into mind account of that you can't search, that are going to be little hiding spots and blocking line of sight. And then you also have these corruption tokens that are basically going to destroy zones and make them not unique anymore. And if the corruption zones make their way all the way to the beacon, which is a starting point potentially somewhere else on the map, then you lose. But you have to deal with that as well because the necromancers are going to be bringing that along to you. There's only 1 pledge level right now, but if you're looking at this and going, ha 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 ha, like I am, right, this is going to be probably 3 times the amount of total all-in gameplay by the time it gets down here at the end. They have a rulebook that is out there already. I mean, I read through the whole 45-page rulebook. There are a total of 75 skills that are very D&D reminiscent, but just like with the other Zombicides, can you actually get to the super useful skills at the end of the game? Or are you just going to potentially not get to the cool stuff? And that's my biggest issue with Zombicide in general. If you can't get to the cool stuff, why have it so far out there in the first place? They've gone both the stretch goals and the daily unlocks. I imagine, again, with this campaign, you're going to see at least probably 3 big box expansions, plus or minus a few deluxifications as well. Your core pledge level, though, on here right now, before they unlock the all-in one, which will show up right down here later above my head, it's going to be their best value period. And you can sell it for probably $100 more than what you're going to buy it for, a year or 2 down the road. So if you want to get it from that standpoint, it's probably, as I said in my video yesterday, the safest flipping game out there, game series, period, on crowdfunding. No questions asked. But, I mean, this one clearly isn't as off to a hot of a start. So is it going to be that much? Is this a Wednesday effect? Now, I personally love the fact that they went on Wednesday. I like bucking the trend, and they've shown over the past 2 or 3 campaigns, Wednesday has not hurt them. So is it off to a slower start just because of that, because there are no expansions, because we haven't seen yet? But imagine this is going to be a huge jump up over the next couple, 3 weeks that they're doing this, more than a few times. And so, I'll be covering it at least once or twice more in between now and the end. There you go. And next up, we have Project L. They're back from Boardcubator, and they set a very aggressive funding goal of $108,000. I mean, this is a true funding goal. This is one that they basically didn't have enough money to operate for a while, and they weren't going to make any more of this. And it briefly, I think, went out of print. You saw people selling it on the secondary market. Well, they're back, and they're offering everything, and they're offering exclusives. So this is the main reason you may be considering it at this point, is if you don't have any of it previously. And the tricky part here is, we'll talk about the new expansion, the Phoenix expansion. But essentially, if you're not familiar with Project L, it's basically like Tetris the board game, only if Tetris was actually an engine builder that you slowly picked up pieces for, that you kept as you built puzzles and you went along. And you tried to get the most puzzles to get you the most victory points by the end of the game. And essentially, that's what you're doing, right? You have these puzzles. You're going to be piecing together, shape by shape, piece by piece within them to try and complete them with whatever pieces or shapes that you have. And so on your turn, you have one of like 4 different actions that you're going to be taking, and you get 3 different actions or 3 of the same actions, or however you want to split them every single turn as you go around. And so you get 3 actions, right? You can grab a new puzzle, you can enter a new piece, you can take a once around ability, or you can get one of the new small pieces that you may want to be able to use to fill it on your next turn. And they run you through, okay, complete puzzles get you points, and your engine grows because you keep all the puzzle pieces that I mentioned, and you're mastering the strategy of, okay, where am I going to put these? Where am I going to put these? Which puzzle am I going to put them in? How do I want to arrange them? Unlocking your master action, like I said, as you go along. The finesse expansion is going to be adding more credits that you will be able to gain in order to do more actions on a turn-by-turn basis. The ghost pieces, we're offering new rewards, new shapes to complete as you're going along with a new dedicated action that you get with the ghost pieces in the first place. And the Phoenix expansion here is going to be just completely different new shapes, challenges, and ways, they say, as smaller pieces. Obviously, when the puzzles get a little bit larger overall, they're going to be less important. Well, they give you fresh new ways, they say, to keep those puzzle pieces at the low level more the key to your success. I mean, it's relatively well thought of. It's just one of those games where I've talked about it previously that, you know, like I would have to feel like hands-on for me, because I get the idea of the engine building, I get the idea of the puzzle, I get the idea of managing them together, but it's one of those games where I can see it either, you know, going one way or the other when it actually hits the table. And that's just the question, right? So then they run you down here through what you're all going to be getting. You have the option just to get the expansion here for the Phoenix expansion, which is really cheap, actually. You have the option to get the base game with the Phoenix expansion, or you can even get the all-ins here. I'm guessing you can probably piecemeal it if we go down below. It kind of runs you through the white puzzles and the black puzzles that you'll be dealing with, the finesse, what each of these are offering in terms of the new puzzle sizes, varieties, and shapes. I don't really know if I need a 5th or 6th player, but these expansions are going to allow you to do that. The ambassador pack, again, it's going to give special ambassador actions as well as a few minor puzzles. Ambassador finesse level, and then a master box, which is going to basically be your organization. Why back it now? Well, I mean, you know, they had some troubles previously, so I guess you have a little bit of FOMO with this one. If you were one of the people that missed out previously, do you need the Kickstarter version? I mean, more luxurious components and metal coins. Yeah, you know. Take that for what you will. It's not a horrible price, though, for the Kickstarter deluxeification level, if you will. I mean, that's $49. You're not probably going to beat that too much to get the expansion at retail side of things, so it's probably not a horrible value. Shipping is probably going to be where you're going to have to deal with it. But interestingly enough here, what's kind of weird here is if you go on and look at the shipping here, I'm not really quite sure what they're doing here, because the no pledge reward, it says the shipping is going to be 15 euros here. So if you don't get in, are you potentially going to lose this if you're a returning backer? Anyway, that's kind of a little bit confusing. They go through all the individual add-ons down here in terms of what it's going to cost extra per shipping. And then, yeah, they run you through some of the other stuff down here in terms of what the deluxeifications, the localization, and all that stuff. But it's one that if you missed it around the first time, I can see why it's funding now. And you're seeing a lot of people probably doing that exact thing. So how many of those are actually getting the returning stuff? Well, you have a good split here between people just getting the new stuff here, about 2,200 people. And then you've got people getting it all in down here for about 600. You can't see behind my head. But that's what Project L is throwing out at us. We'll see where it goes and see how much it can raise. Next up, we have Mindbug Beyond. Compatible 2 new standalone expansions with the previous Mindbug. You're going to be getting Beyond Evolution and Beyond Eternity, as they're co-designed by Garfield in the first place. You may know his name from several other well thought of card games. This is a 2-player game. It only takes you about 15 minutes to play. Essentially what you do is you either play a card or you attack. Each person has 3 life points. You have a hand of 5 cards out of a total of 10 cards out of a total of 48 cards. So your original deck essentially comes with 48 cards. You deal 10 to me and 10 to you, and you draw 5 of those up and you go until somebody wins. You have 2 mind bugs that sit in front of you, meaning if somebody plays a card and you want that card instead, you use one of your 2 mind bugs up and it becomes under your control instead of theirs. Back and forth. They've added some new actions and some new mechanisms here that you have to be aware of, and to add it a little bit more depth, a little bit, you know, it's a lot of take that. It's a lot of take that. And if you don't like aggressive take that small box games, you are not going to be a fan of this game if you don't like that. The new things that you're doing is you're getting extra actions on the cards themselves here. You get the evolve mechanic, which allows your character to transform, or your creature to transform with new abilities. And then you get the boost mechanic, which means when you go into the discard pile with this card, it's going to offer additional boosts for your cards in the actual game itself. That's basically all you need to know except for the pledge level. And if you want both of these, it's going to cost you $38. Do you need both of them? No, you don't. You'd be happy with just one of these. They did a bunch of promos and some stretch goals last time that gave you additional stuff. And if you just want to get a bunch of them, you know, you can do that too with a bunch of playmats and deck boxes and that sort of thing too. Limited edition, the deluxe stuff is all there. yeah, you're just getting more. They're breaking out some of the other add-on here, the first contact pack from the previous campaign, promo pack, playmats, all the other stuff I mentioned. So they're going to be including more stuff. So this is one where if you're not looking at it right now, you go up here and you click the remind me, so that you, when it gets down to the final 48 hours, see how much stuff is added there extra, and you can kind of get in on it. But I mean, it's got a wide mass appeal to these style of games. And, you know, it's nice because you only use 20 cards out of the 48 every single game. You're getting different combos and creations and strategies. And it's highly, highly tactical. So if you want this, good price, not widely available on the secondary market, if I recall from the last time around as well. So check that one out. Now we have Terminus from Inside Up Games. 3 times its funding goal at the time of me filming this. If you're watching this, you already missed out on getting your name written in the box. But what you need to know about this sort of engine building, track laying, I don't want to say rondel, but if you think of like Glenmore 2, right, where you've got the action spaces that you're going around a loop with, that's essentially what you're doing in this game over 3 years, or 3 rounds is what they're calling them here in this game. And so what you're doing, though, is you get the ability to go around this action loop that you're going to be going on up to 3 full loops before your round ends, and you go back and forth, right? Like you go to an action space, then somebody else goes to an action space that goes to an action space, and then you go and you go and you go. And so again, you go until you pass. And what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna be going to one of 5 different action zones that are gonna allow you to build, spend, gather resources, collect all of these things that you may want to do. And they break them down here in terms of developing the land, lobbying there, improving the zone, marketing the zone, and supplying the zone. So not to mention obviously building. So 6. So take that for what you will, but that's what you're getting with Terminus here. This is a mechanical overview that they run you, the rondel action loop that I mentioned, building your actual tracks on there, having a marketplace, getting income at the beginning of every round depending on where you are along a sliding track, and then having the resource management to build, plan, develop, and lay eventually on those spaces as you're going across. They run you through what some of the deluxifications and the upgrades are going to be in this box. It gives me sort of like a heavier version of not Ticket to Ride, but on the Underground, if you will, the upgraded version of even On the Underground. Like I mentioned, taking your actions, you run through the different ways that you're going to be taking those actions on the little loop. And the other tricky part with this is you've got a little bit of a snake draft at the beginning of the game, depending on turn order, as well as where your starting points are going to be in combination with your secret objectives. Then the other interesting aspect that I have to point out here, and this is probably the big make it or break it, is there's a 2-player automa, which is very interesting, which means essentially what they're saying is that the full experience of this game is going to be 3 or more players, 3, 4, or 5. And so that's what you really need to think about. If this game isn't going to be quite as, tight on the board, is it going to be too much of doing whatever you want? Are you really looking for that, or are you looking for something crunchier, something more Euro driven, where it's really an optimization action strategy that you need to employ, rather than what can I get away with this turn, and how do I need to balance that? So that's probably making it one of the heaviest games that they've put out, I would make the argument of. The rulebook is there, and again, I pulled up the rulebook here for a second, but I think you really might have to watch some video to get the flow of this, because as you can see, each of these zones has a little bit of everything going on that you're really not going to necessarily have the greatest sense of until you look through it and really look through it with a fine-tooth comb. I mean, they run you through the iconography, they run you through each of the areas, but the flow of what a turn, of how these are going to go together, isn't as apparent unless you watch, say, John Gets Games here, which I would probably recommend. So take that for what you will. They run you through, again, some of the stretch goals that are going to be down here, which are deluxifications, and deluxifications. So that's really going to be the tricky point of why you're going to be getting it now, right? You're going to get the little bit of deluxifications, the metal coins that are going to be included that they've said that are, value-wise going to be worth it. I mean, you're not going to be able to pick this up in the secondary market for the same price. I mean, you saw that with Earth, you saw that with Block and Key, Inside Up's previous games, and it's just whether or not this much heavier version of an Onto the Underground is going to be right for you. And give it a heavy look-see, because killing it. So there you go. Next up, we have Mycology, the board game of foraging for fungi. And this is just about funded at the time of me filming this. By the time you guys are watching this, this will be easily funded. You're foraging for fungi, just like it says. Essentially what you have is you have a 4-season board here, and that you're going to be rolling dice. And based on the dice, you're doing a little bit of like a space-based Machi Koro-esque vibe, where whatever number you roll, you gather the resources that are indicated at the top of your player board. If you're gathering those resources, unless you roll a 7, the 7 is actually the thing that advances the season board. If you then take your resources, you can use them to collect or forage mushrooms. If you're doing that, you have to get a certain number based on the season that it is. So you can't have all of your mushrooms foraged during one season, because obviously all mushrooms don't grow during one season. You can't have all 10 of the mushrooms that you're required to forage and end up card-wise on attached to your player board in the winter, right? That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense thematically speaking either. So you have to have like 1, 2, 2, 4, something along those lines. I forget exactly what it is. We'll talk about it in a second, but you have to have sort of that odd distribution. I think it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. That would make more sense if the total was 10, right? Duh. And so it breaks down the cards of, you know, this as well as this, and that just means upper left-hand corner being your victory points at the end of the game. The lower left-hand corner going to give you special actions or special powers that are go along with it. For example, here, the poison mushroom card, meaning you get a poison mushroom each time that is foraged during the certain time that you're foraging. And then the lower right is going to be another place of interaction of what you're going to be having to pay to forage it in the first place, of those resources that I mentioned that you're going to be gathering based on the die rolls. You can trade in a bunch of stuff here for a bunch of other stuff, and the game ends, as I mentioned here. There you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then points are tallied, feast tokens, magic mushrooms, and poison tokens are all added together. That's it. That's the whole game. A little bit of depth, a little bit of strategy, a little bit light, all at the same time. There's only one pledge level, so they're going to cost you about $36 right now. A few stretch goals, I think, down here, or not actually. No, that's it. Period. Okay. Hey, it's funded. Check it out. Give it a look-see. Tell them Liege sent you. So what else we got going on? This is my sleeper hit of the week as well, Tolerance. 3 to 5 player trick-taking game over on GameFound. Now, this is going to be interesting because it's 3 to 5 players. It's about 45 minutes, but it's based on the deeply seated engagement between, we'll call it an engagement, right? Protestants and Catholics in the 16th century. And essentially what it is you're playing over 3 large rounds where each round has 12 different tricks that you're going to be playing against. And depending on the round, different things are going to be scoring for end game or end round scoring points, depending on who leader-wise is in charge and what their actual affiliation is. And so you can see the rule book here. They talk you through the 4 different suits plus the wild suit. So you're still going to be following suit just like every other trick game that you may be aware of. But the difference is that all of these trick cards are going to have different powers or different abilities that are going to affect the other cards potentially that were laid down on the trick with them. And the person who has to deal with that or do the effects that are listed on those cards is whoever wins the trick. So sometimes it may behoove you to win the trick because you may be able to eliminate some of the cards and you end up with a certain number of the cards, positive or negative, that are going to score you victory points. And so it's going to be a lot of inter-trick dynamics that you're going to be having to deal with, because sometimes you'll want to win and sometimes you absolutely won't want to win and you won't have a choice. And again, there's really only one pledge level if you want to get this game. If you want to get a bunch of their other stuff, which I'm actually not as familiar with all this stuff. I remember White Hat though. It's going to cost you about $30 right now. So I think it's unique. I think it's doing something different. Again, I read the rule book here. It's a very short rule book. It's only 9 pages and you can get through all of it, but there's going to be a little bit more thinking. There's going to be a little bit more complexity. So if you're looking for that for a trick-taking style of game, they run you through exactly what the scoring example is going to be here. And there's a little bit of symbology, but that's because you have about 6 different actions or effects that you're going to be taking: killing, condemning, converting, collecting taxes, collecting piety, and making like a guild member or not, depending on the target of the effect is here, the Catholic versus the Protestant, as well as who it's targeting in the suit or the card based on either the value, who has the most money, or the highest piety on the cards in the first place. And again, there's a lot of symbology going on, literally and metaphorically speaking, on this card. So again, take it for what you will. It talks about the monarchs here, who's reigning, and you can see who the prevailing religion is, and that's going to affect the scoring that I mentioned, because if you go down here, it says at the end of the round, based on who is getting what, in the first round, each living, that one is, that's a Catholic, I think, gets a victory point. Each living non-denomination gets a point, and then each living Christian or Protestant here gets a point. So it changes everything round by round, and so that's why it's more complex. And if you're looking for something like this, I think this looks solid, and for the price point, you probably can't beat it. A few extra upgrades because this is a truly indie game, but that is Tolerance over on GameFound. Now let's go over here. It's Dice Barons. You're never going to hear about this game. I'm going to talk about it here. It actually just seems like a kind of nice little novel concept, but the weird thing is each of these backers is averaging over $100 right now, which is kind of weird because the highest pledge level is only about $50. So, but basically what you've got going on here is you're rolling these dice, and these dice are color dependent. They're actually colorblind friendly, they say as well. They've actually tested that and done very specific testing to make sure that it is. But what you do is you roll 4 of them each and every turn, and then that builds your castle. But you also have special things in there that are going to allow you to attack or defend your castle against other people's castles. And if you do damage to the other person's castle, they just lose dice, right? And there's only a certain number of dice in the bag. I think there's 64 dice, they say. And so at the end of the 64 dice, whoever has the largest castle wins. The colors come in because the colors are going to dictate where it can be placed, right? It can either be placed on the roof as an orange, the gray or yellow as a side, and the purple can't be exposed and must be hidden at all times. So that's what you're going to be doing. They talk about the colorblind testing down here, and that's it. That's the game as a nutshell. A couple reviews and a couple stretch goals. So again, super indie. If you want to give it a look-see, tell them Liege sent you. Now let's go over here to the Vedur. It's an action selection deck builder, as it calls itself, 2 to 4 players with 2 basic variants, basic and advanced. And essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be having these different weather predictions that you're going to be trying to make with your cards. And you're playing these cards with matching symbols to the weather predictions. And if you can fill up this little board right here based on the symbols that are on your cards that you're playing, well, you put a cube in each one of those areas. When all 4 cubes are filled, then you score based on how well the prediction was and how many of those cubes you have in there. And you're going to have advanced mode here that talks about elixirs that are going to add an additional layer of scoring. And then the end game is triggered when no more tiles can be added to the central board based on the number of players. It is semi-cooperative in the sense that you need to be able to fill these up with the help of other people, but you don't also want to let them get too many spots because otherwise they're going to score more points for you. Again, they go through the 3 actions that you're going to be doing, and the 3 actions essentially is you're going to be drawing cards into your hand as the first action, and these cards are going to be better than the starting cards that you have, so they're going to be more helpful, they're going to be more useful when you're laying them down in the weather predictions. Then you have the option either to essentially lay down up to that many cards, because you're drawing 4 cards in the first action. You can lay down 1 to 4 cards in the second action, and then the third action allows you to take a mix of the first 2. You can lay down up to 2 cards, and then you can draw up to 2 cards as well. The predictions that I talked about, cooperating on the pattern that you're going to need to build it, and then when you finish it, you score all the points. The advanced rules here, again, you're flipping to an advanced side, giving 7 different asymmetric actions, the elixir cards, and drawing your common cards to begin, and how you're gaining, how you're changing a little bit of those actions is going to go along with it. That's pretty much it. When you can't refill the central board, game's over. Boom, there you go. Run you through the components. They run you through a couple of their other games down here, the Nordic Heritage Collection right here. Runir, an abstract set collection dice game, reprinted again now this year. First print is 2020 and it's out of print. And then Sagnir, which again is another tile laying card game. So not going to go into those over detail, but they give you a little bit of value and a little bit of a description there in the rules. You can kind of see if you want to get bundles or you just want to get one. It's at your discretion right here. So there you go. Gamia Games putting out Vedur. So next up, we have Stan Kordowski's latest game, the maker of Resurgence. If you remember that one, their latest edition of sort of the Euro-style games. This is Nova Roma. This is city building estate management, and it's about 50% funded in the first 24 hours here. You're basically creating your own Roman Empire. And how you're going to be doing it is you're going to be selecting actions on a turn-by-turn basis from a variety of 8 that are offered to you that you're going to be utilizing. Now, that sounds relatively simple and straightforward here, but we'll pull it up here and let me show you about why this is not as simple as it may appear just on the surface value. $59, they're going deluxe on it. There are no stretch goals. Just like with Resurgence, you're going to get what you're going to get. There's a little bit of deluxification. How different is it going to be at retail? I mean, that's sort of the big question with Resurgence as well. You can see all the upgrades that you're going to get here. That's fine. The board, they talk about that. We'll talk about what these board pieces are in a second, and how all of these pieces are going to be interacting. And then go down to a little bit of a GIF down here, and they talk about how, okay, you're going to be playing over 5 rounds. The first thing you do in this first little animation is you're going to be flipping over the Emperor. The Emperor is put in one of the 2 spaces on the back of the Emperor card that are pre-selected. And why that matters is because when you place your pawn on that grid, essentially that 4x4 grid of 16 different spaces, now 15 once the Emperor occupies one, then you get to choose both the action in the row this way and the column this way. And if you happen to choose the row or the column that includes the Emperor, it strengthens the power of that action in the first place. And these symbols look relatively straightforward and relatively clear. They're not. If you're fooled by that, that's where I was referring to earlier, the complexity of this game. When you pull up the rule book here, each of these actions that you're going to be taking has literally like 2 or 3 steps individually that you're going through, that you're potentially maneuvering on one of the 8 different things. So already you're already talking potential of 24 different aspects. You can see you're placing it there, and then you are moving these other pieces on the other boards, and you're gonna have several other boards or selected areas that you're going to be managing, moving ships, building, managing economies, all of those sorts of things that you're going to be dealing with. And they talk about how you're going to be hiring followers. There's tons of followers. They list them all out in the rule book at the end there. I mean, something like a good 30 or 40 probably easily. producing some of your resources, and then accomplishing these unique goals. You're going to have a unique asymmetric goal that you're going to start with. Now, essentially, you have a grid here that you're going to be filling up with achievement tokens. You're going to have a total of 7 achievement tokens that you can earn in addition to the ones that you're given at the beginning of the game. And when you fill up a row, column, or diagonal, you're going to get a bonus, an instant bonus that's going to help you, obviously do other things better. But you only have the potential to get 7 of the 9 spaces filled, so you will not be able to get all of them. So you're going to have to pick and choose how you're going to do that. All the big people videos here, videos, the better price, premium components. You can get a mat as well as you want if you really want that. There's only 1 pledge level for the gameplay and then 1 pledge level to get all this stuff. They're saying that it's pretty much set to go print, so you're going to get it this year even. And you don't put that on there unless it's actually true. So unless something goes drastically wrong with the printers, there you go. Rulebook is right there. I read through it. It's an easy read, except for those actions. I'm not kidding on that. So I just put up the rulebook just to prove my point here. Okay, you can see here is one of these action tiles. Here are the 3 things you're doing. Here are the 3 things you're doing on the upgraded action tile of it. So again, you see all of the different actions, all of the different symbology that's going on. That's a lot of stuff to remember. So you're going to be looking this one up. That's probably the biggest barrier to entry. This is not as simple as it may seem. You can see, again, there's a lot of text to go along with this in terms of explaining it as well. So there is a solo mode, and you can check it out if you want, but shipping is going to be partially subsidized, so $8. So you're looking at a $60 game right now. Not bad. Again, it's a sleeper hit. Is it going to be heavy enough for the heavy gamers? Is it going to be too heavy for some of the lighter gamers? That's sort of the thing. And I didn't see a lot of marketing on this one. Not that I'm saying marketing, but like, I posted on the forums for this game. I knew this game was coming up in April, but there was no time frame ever given until like literally 2 days before. And then, okay, I need to know about it in advance to drum up some of that side of things. And so I think that's what happened with Resurgence. I think that's what happened with this one. So just put some more information out there, and I think you'll get it, because I would be heavily surprised if this one doesn't fund. Also, I'm going to start saying this regularly. Hey, tell them Liege sent you. Tell them I sent you there. Help me help you. Anyway. Or help you help me. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Taiwan Night Market. Again, this one's going to be a little bit of a sleeper hit as well. This one's not going to be widely available. It's a Taiwanese game that already funded on the Taiwan side of crowdfunding. And what you're going to be doing, and this is the most interesting part, the most divisive part, it's a 3 or 4 player game. You don't really play it with 2 people because it's an auction bidding style game, and they I don't think even have rules for 2 players. But the game overview essentially is you are going to be bidding on stall locations, outbidding, and you are guaranteed, unlike other bidding games, to get a stall location. You're going to have a compensation bid. If you are outbid on all of the various stalls, potentially 5 of them every single round, you are going to then have the potential to outbid someone else as a compensation to make sure that every player wins one. You are guaranteed a stall, essentially. If you get outbid, you get a compensation bid. If you outbid someone else and they lose all of theirs as your compensation bid, they're going to get a compensation. So, it makes sure that it's fair and that you're not going potentially around without anything, so that would make this game unfun. You're going to have customers that are set aside over here at the edges that are going to be both lettered and colored, meaning the letters are going to be drawn randomly. You're going to have hidden customers that you're going to be playing, but then they're also going to be colored and correspond to the market stalls that you're putting out in the first place. And they are going to be going along these predetermined paths and stopping at the first place that matches their color. But each stall can only hold 1 per color. So you may have the potential to get 1 subsequent rounds because these stalls are not cleared. These stalls stay out there. And so you're going to be putting them out, and you're going to be putting them out, and you're putting them out until you play potentially up to 5 rounds at the higher player counts. And that's what you're going to be dealing with here. Yeah, there you go. They run through, they get stopped at stalls. If you have stalls of adjacent colors that match, then it opens it up even further, because normally they can only enter in one side, but if they're adjacency, it opens up to potentially more sides that they can enter in, which means you can get more customers, which means you can get more money. Now, obviously, the bidding part of things is a little bit of concern. As with 18xx or train games, you can actually bid more than you have money. And so you can take out loans in the game. Loans are $5 loans, but you have to pay $7 back at the end, because this is a game where the most money at the end wins. But you can only take a total of 3 loans for the whole game. So English rules are there. The English rules are solid. It's a link to Board Game Geek. So if you have any questions, also check it out on Tabletop Simulator. The art's fantastic. You're getting a Kickstarter version here with a little bit of an upgraded meeple. But to be frank with you, you're not going to find this on the secondary market. So you either buy it on crowdfunding or you don't get it whatsoever. Do you need some keychains? There you go. That's everything. They're going to do a few stretch goals because, again, this is a true indie game. Take it for what it is. So if you want to get this one, definitely check it out and give them some support, give them some love. I'm going to cover it because it's almost 50% fun at the time of me filming. Reason for the season: you have an asymmetric combat card style game, which you're one of 6 different holidays, essentially. Holidays represented as asymmetric attacking card decks that they run through here as the heroes on each of these holidays. And you get 25 different cards in your deck, and essentially what you're going to be doing is playing these cards on a turn-by-turn, action-by-action basis, 1 per turn, in order to play your hero, equip your hero, or attack and defend, depending on how you want to play. And basically the last one standing left wins. So that's the gist of it as a nutshell. They run you through a couple of the different actions here. You're drawing at the end, and there's going to be a calendar deck that you're going to be doing before each action turn that's essentially going to have special effects that's even going to attack you, do damage to you, or skip your turn, lose your turn, or just have something else that occurs to sort of spice it up each round. And then you have Santa variants that are going to be played throughout there that Santa's going to be potentially going at you as well. So it's going to be player versus player as well as a little bit of player versus deck. So there you go. That's it. There you go. Crowdfunding roundup. As always, if you're just tuning into the end part here, you skipped a couple of your games, tell them Liege sent you. Put a comment in the comment section on GameFound or Kickstarter and say, hey, Liege Games sent me here, right? Because, you know, it helps me get the word out, because I guarantee you half of the campaigns don't even know who I am. I guarantee it. And so, you know, that'd be awesome if you could. If not, too, I don't really, you know, that's fair, you know. I don't know. I don't got nothing else. I tweaked my knee tonight playing soccer with a kid. I'm pissed. Like, I went to do like just like a jab move, and my sock on the carpet just slid. And so like my anterior knee, like right where the patella tendon is, just feels a little funky tonight. So I'm a little pissed at myself, but that's all I got. I got nothing else going on. I got to play some games this weekend and get some reviews out. I will be having a review out on Crown of Ash. That game showed up. Yes. Super excited about that. And the next of the Evolution games. Got something coming that way. And we'll have also at the beginning of the week, this is going to push a few other things back, but my review of Fractured Sky is going to be out on the day it launches. So on the 11th, it'll be out there as well. Marvel Age of Heroes, that review is pending in the queue. Dice Manor, that review is pending in the queue. A few other things like that. So yeah, hopefully you like the stuff that came out this past week. A little bit of everything. DEI, yeah, I really think that's a good game. The Frosthaven, the Zombicide, Should You Back, as well as I have filmed the Elder Scrolls Should You Back. It's not out yet. It'll be coming out shortly, probably in the next week and a half, just depending on timing. And whether or not we get a rule book. I don't think we're going to get a rule book. I don't think we're going to. If we do, great. I'm all for it. But I'm planning on not getting a rule book. So, yeah. The Toku, that one's got to get done sometime too. Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing else. Oh, Jerusalem. Anno Domini. That one needs to get done too. Okay. So that's all I got. Stay classy. Tune in tomorrow. Top 3 games launching next week. What do you need to know? Short, sweet, more digestible, as you guys said in the comment section, of that type of video. So I like doing it better that way anyway. So it's a win-win. Maybe I should start talking about TV shows in there again. Nah, you guys don't want to hear about that. Netflix, though, is putting out some good stuff this month. Anyway, that's all I got. Stay classy. See you around. Have a great freaking weekend. I'm just working every day this week, so kids are on spring break. Kids are partying, hanging out with mom, going to all sorts of fun places, doing stuff with their cousins, and I'm just working. I told the 2-year-old tonight, he goes, Daddy, are you coming with us tomorrow? I'd be sad if you come with us. I mean, it's the 2-year-old, right? And I go, no, buddy. Sorry, Daddy doesn't get to do fun things. Sort of. You know what I'm saying. Peace out.